This video, I just want to go through the respiratory system with you, so you can read through there yourselves what we hope to learn in this chapter. Why do we need a respiratory system? In the previous chapter we studied respiration, and you should know now that respiration is the release of energy from food, and it occurs in every single one of your cells in your body. What do your cells need for respiration? Well, they need glucose, but they need oxygen, and they also produce carbon dioxide and water. Remember, we mentioned about respiration being a chemical change. Why is respiration a chemical change? Because it makes something new. It makes carbon dioxide and water and energy. But the carbon dioxide and water has to be gotten rid of out of your body. And how do we do this? We do this by external respiration or by breathing. So the respiration that occurs in your cells when you produce in carbon dioxide and water and energy from glucose and oxygen, that's called internal respiration. And then how we get rid of the carbon dioxide and water and how we get oxygen is called external respiration, or we would call it breathing. Now, the diagram on the right-hand side is the diagram in your textbooks, but I just wanted to add a few extra parts or labels to it, I suppose. So you can start up with your nose, and you should include your mouth as well. So your nose and your mouth there will bring air into your breathing system, or bring air down towards your lungs, okay? So you inhale through your nose and your mouth. So include mouth when you're drawing the diagram yourselves. The air then moves down, and you see the way there's two tubes. One of them has been cut off because we are studying the respiratory system or the breathing system. The tube on the right that's cut is your esophagus. That would continue down parallel to your trachea, and it would lead into your stomach. They've cut it off here because they just want to show the breathing system parts. So the other tube on the left then, so continues down. And can you see you've got kind of a thicker box, a kind of a light purple colour there. That's your voice box or your larynx. And your larynx or your voice box is responsible for making sound. So you've got vocal cords in your larynx which vibrate as the air moves through them, and that produces sound. Then do you notice on your trachea or your windpipe, you've got these circular rings, that they're the kind of the darker purple there. They're rings of what are called cartilage. Now, cartilage is an important structure in your body, and it allows us to ensure that the air tubes stay open. So they're like rings that go around your trachea. You can actually feel them. If you put your fingers to your throat and kind of move up and down, then you'll feel these hard rings of cartilage. So they make sure that your tubes stay open. You also have these rings of cartilage in your bronchus and in your upper bronchiole. So they ensure the air tubes stay open and you don't suffocate. So then your trachea, because you have two lungs, of course, then you need to branch. The trachea needs to branch into two, and so the trachea forms the bronchi, which is the plural, or two bronchus. There you can see the label, the bronchus, which takes air. They're tubes which take air towards each lung, and then within the lung you've got narrower tubes called bronchioli. And those bronchioli make sure that air is delivered right throughout your lung. And then at the end of the bronchioli, you've got these air sacs, which are like bags of air, I suppose, and they're called alveoli. So try to remember bronchioli, alveoli together. Then, how do you protect your lungs? Well, we protect our lungs with our ribs. So the ribs protect your lungs, encase your lungs and protect them. But your ribs need to be able to move. So they've got intercostal muscles associated with them, which contract and relax and allow the rib cage to move in and out. The diaphragm then is another very important, watch the spelling of diaphragm, very important sheet of muscle there that separates the thorax from the abdomen. So your thorax is the part or the area of your body where you have your lungs and your heart. Your abdomen is where you have your stomach and your intestines. It'd be below the diaphragm. So remember, just the diaphragm is a sheet of muscle which separates the thorax from the abdomen. Now, can you try to pause the video now, please, and try to label the parts of the breathing system that I've gone through in the previous slide. So pause and take a minute to label. Now, how did you get on with the labelling? So A is the larynx, or the voice box. B is your trachea. So I'm just going to let you correct, I suppose, your labels there yourselves. And look at the epiglottis. So the epiglottis is the flap of tissue. When you're swallowing food, you don't want food going down into your lungs. So what the epiglottis does is it covers over the trachea or the windpipe so that food doesn't go down the wrong way. You know, sometimes that might happen to you and you start coughing and spluttering because you're trying to get the food back up again. So the epiglottis, it's a flap of tissue that covers your trachea while you're swallowing so the food doesn't go down the wrong way. Now, lads, we need to try and explain the mechanism of inhalation and exhalation now, okay? So what I'd like you to do is take a deep breath in. Now, when you've taken that deep breath in, what did you notice happened to your ribs? So do it again now. Deep breath in. Your ribs are moving up and out. Now, ribs are bones. They can't move by themselves. What's actually moving the ribs is the contraction of the intercostal muscles. So the intercostal muscle will contract, move the ribs or the bones up and out. Now, you're not conscious of the diaphragm, but the diaphragm actually contracts and the diaphragm then moves down. So can you see? Can you see the arrow there, look, in your diagram? So the diaphragm moves down, okay, and contracts. The ribs move up and out. Now, what's that doing to the space or the volume? Remember that we learned that volume was the amount of space. So what's it doing to the space in your thorax? It's making your thorax bigger. It's increasing the space, and that will decrease the pressure of air. You imagine if you squash air into smaller and smaller and smaller space, what are you doing to the pressure of that air? You're squashing it together, so you're increasing the pressure. We're doing the opposite here. We're giving the air more space to move out from the particles of the air, will move out from each other. They have more space available. And if the particles have a greater volume or more space, then the pressure will decrease. And then there's lower pressure inside in your thorax or in your lungs. So what happens is that air is sucked in from outside, because air will always try to move from high to low. So air flows in from higher pressure outside to lower pressure within your lungs. Okay, so just to run through that now again, because that might be a bit difficult. So when you take a deep breath in, so deeply breathe in now, your ribs are moving up and out. You're not conscious of it, I know, but your diaphragm's moving down with the diaphragm, okay? The volume in your thorax is getting greater, more space. So the pressure, the air particles can move around in a greater space now, so they have less pressure, and air moves in then from outside where there's higher pressure to inside your lungs where there's less or lower pressure. Then it's the opposite, of course, for exhalation. So take a deep breath, kind of exaggerate, I suppose, the breathing when you're breathing out now. So look what happens. Your ribs are moving down and in this time. Your diaphragm relaxes, so it moves back up. So look at the picture. What are you doing to the space in your thorax? You're decreasing the space. Less space means the pressure of the air will be under greater pressure. So the air is under greater pressure. There's more pressure inside this time, and air is pushed out. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is the function of the alveoli is gaseous exchange. Now, if you're exchanging something in the shop, say you have a jumper and you want to take it back and exchange it, you're swapping a jumper for another jumper. With gaseous exchange, you're swapping one gas for other gases. So what you're doing in the alveoli of your lungs, remember now the alveoli they're in your lungs, and the bronchioli is the little tube, I suppose, that and then it ends in the alveoli. The alveoli is covered with blood capillaries, tiny blood capillaries. So there's a huge number of blood capillaries surrounding the alveoli. And what happens is that when you breathe in air, the oxygen goes from the alveoli into your bloodstream, and then the blood will carry oxygen to your cells. The blood has brought carbon dioxide and water to your alveoli, so the carbon dioxide and water goes out of the blood into the alveoli, and then the alveoli will breathe that out. So have a very good look at the diagram now and you can see what's going on. So what gases are being exchanged? Oxygen is being exchanged for carbon dioxide and water, but the direction is really important. You must remember that oxygen is needed in your cells. They need oxygen. So oxygen is taken from the alveoli into your blood, and then the blood will carry the oxygen to the cells. You've made carbon dioxide and water in your cells. You need to get rid of that. So the blood brings it back up to the alveoli, and the carbon dioxide and water goes across from the blood into the alveoli, and then your alveoli get rid of it. They breathe it out. Diffusion is how the particles or the gases move from the alveoli to the blood, or from the blood back to the alveoli. This diagram, I think, is kind of nice because it kind of links the cells to the alveoli. So look at the cell down the bottom. You can see a roundy cell there. It's kind of blue in colour. That could be a muscle cell. So say you're exercising, you're running a match, you're running a race, or you're playing a match or something, and you've got millions of muscle cells making up your muscle in your leg or your arms, wherever, okay? Those cells need energy. So they need oxygen. They're making carbon dioxide and water. So Do you see the way then that in the cell there you can see the arrow for the oxygen? So in the cell, the oxygen goes from the blood into the cell. That oxygen is used with glucose to make energy for the cell to keep going. And the carbon dioxide and water has to be gotten rid of. So you can see the arrow going out of the cell, taking the carbon dioxide and water to the blood. That blood then takes carbon dioxide and water to the alveoli, and it goes out into the alveoli and you breathe it out. Look above at the alveoli, see oxygen's going into your bloodstream and the oxygen is being carried by the blood down to your cells then. Now, if we were in school, we would do this experiment to show that there's more carbon dioxide in exhaled than inhaled air. So you'd have two tubes. Okay, test tube A would be representing inhaled air, test tube B would be representing exhaled air. And you would put clear lime water into both those tubes. So they'd be like water, they wouldn't have any colour. And then what you would do is you would breathe in, okay, through the tube in A, and you would hold your breath then, and you would breathe out through where it says exhale in the test tube B. Okay, so test tube A is representing your inhaled air and test tube B is representing your exhaled air. And then you would just watch and see which lime water turns milkier faster. Remember, lime water tests for the presence of carbon dioxide. So it'll turn milky when there's carbon dioxide, when there's more, when there's carbon dioxide in the lime water. So B will turn milkier faster because there's more carbon dioxide in the air that you breathe out. Where is that carbon dioxide coming from? It's coming from the cells during respiration. So which lime water will turn milky? The lime water in B will turn milky. And why? Because there's more carbon dioxide in the air that you breathe out because your cells have made it. Effects of smoking: cancer, heart disease, pneumonia, bronchitis, and the smoking clogs up the hairs in your nose, reduces the filtering effect, so that when the air goes through your nose, it filters any bacteria or any viruses that might be coming in the air. And also smoking has effects on your lungs and your ability for your lungs to swap gases or have gaseous exchange. There's 3 videos there now that you can watch. Hopefully between that and your textbook and the PowerPoint,